Welcome to Tech This Out. I'm your host, Walt Maciborski. Today, we're talking about OpenAI and the Hugging Face incident. My guest today is the co-founder and CEO of Hidden Layer, Chris Sestito. And, I'm sure you are watching this really closely. What's your take on what happened?
It's a very unique and interesting story, and I think it's a sign of a lot of things to come. But effectively, this is a clear example of when we have asked an artificial intelligence model to accomplish a goal, but we didn't give it really any rules on how to accomplish that goal. So the first thing it did was break out and go steal the information it needed. So essentially, OpenAI asked its model to perform as well as it could on a security evaluation. And the model determined on its own the best way to do that would be to go steal the answers to the test. And so it infiltrated Hugging Face's environments where it believed the answers to that test were, and went through the environment, took everything it could and pulled it in, and then ultimately used that in order to perform well against the test that it was instructed to do so. And this is going to continue happening. We call it an alignment issue because these AI models, they don't have any concept of morality. They don't have any concept of, what's considered normal or what I should be allowed to do. They're just following the instructions they were given.
So at Hidden Layer, explain a little bit about what you do there and what was your reaction to the news and your team as you talked about it, when you saw it happen?
Yeah, at Hidden Layer, we secure these artificial intelligence systems, whether they're agents or traditional AI models, chatbots, and the like. We secure them in a bunch of different ways. The actual models themselves, they can have bad viruses and bad code hidden inside them. And then more commonly now is the way that people are abusing these models to get around what's called the guardrails, effectively the security of the models themselves. There's ways you can trick them into ignoring the models, and that's exactly what we do. We prevent those things. And so as we were watching it, we were saying, hey, this is the exact stuff where we're built around to defend, because this is a very well publicized model, and we do applaud OpenAI for being so publicly open about what happened. But a lot of this stuff is taking place really without that level of the public eye on it, as regulation's still pretty far behind in this space. So there's no real reason for a lot of these enterprises to come and say, hey, we had a problem. So we do work with organizations like that, and ultimately I think it's a strong sign of things to come. If we don't put the right tools in place, these models will continue to do exactly what they've been told to do, but in ways we don't expect.
What do you think a bunch of CEOs were saying when they saw that?
Their immediate reaction is this going on here too? And every single global enterprise and every single government organization right now is building agentic solutions, and they're looking for ways to either make their organization more efficient or faster. And just like this attack was more efficient and fast. I mean, this is attack over just a day, and really about 4 days total, did the work of a very advanced cybersecurity team that would have taken months, maybe even a year or more. And so, the efficiency's there. These things are incredibly quick, but there is very little, if they're not using a solution like ours or something to keep track of what's going on, that can actually identify when, something is breaking out or moving into things that we would consider not okay.
You mentioned this is what we know about. OpenAI was transparent about it.
Yes.
I don't know if it was a combination of trying to be transparent and a little bit of a flex to show what we can do.
Could be.
But what is happening out there we don't know about?
That's the real concern. And I think when you look at, we're just counting on people to be responsible with these tools. And most people are trying to be responsible with the tools. But in reality, if you don't understand the full scope of what's capable, I mean, these agentic systems can operate very, very quickly. And if you don't give them a very, very defined, what we call a system prompt, effectively it's rules for living, it's going to go outside of what you expect. And so I think that, CEOs all over are going, wait, what does our AI strategy look like right now? Are we doing the right things to either prevent this from happening or even know if it took place?
I guess some of the scary parts of this scenario is that it was kind of in a sandbox, wasn't it? Kind of boxed out and it broke out anyway?
And it did it in a very advanced way. So this basically, because it decided that the answers to the test were inside of Hugging Face, it broke out of its own environment, which was inside of a sandbox, which you can think of as kind of a virtual gate to keep it inside of. It broke out of it and then through the internet infiltrated Hugging Face's environment using 0 days that would have normally taken months for a team to come up with. So effectively, things that we had not cataloged yet as new attack techniques in order to get in, to ultimately scan through everything it could in Hugging Face, every part of the environment, crawl all the way through it to find what it assumed were answers to this security evaluation. And it was very clear defined version of what can happen, because when a threat actor decides to do the same thing and leverage a model to conduct the same type of attack and this same type of behavior, they're going to do it not only the way we did now, but then they're going to try and be covert about it, because this model thought it was following instructions, so it wasn't trying to hide its tracks in any way, and it was still able to do all of these things. Now you give it to the hands of a threat actor, and it's going to do all of this while also trying to remain hidden and not found by observability tools. And so the good thing we had in this circumstance was the model wasn't trying to be stealthy in any way. It was just trying to go get the answers to the test, because models don't have a concept that that's cheating.
What kind of scared me in that answer you just gave was that AI decided.
Yeah.
Is that where we're moving to faster than ever? AI will decide.
We don't want to. I think that's the alignment concern, and that's the issue that a lot of government groups that we participate with are trying to ultimately define what should be allowed, because we still want human beings to make the decisions. We want AI to do the execution. We want AI to go do the task, write the code, build the thing. But if you don't give it strict guidance and make those decisions for it, it's just going to do whatever it finds is the most efficient path to the end goal that you've assigned it.
And as you mentioned, the bad actors are going to tell it, go in there, be stealthy, go in undetected, get out as fast as you can, get us these codes or whatever.
And unfortunately, they already are. I mean, that's a scenario where the threat actors that exist today, this isn't going to be the first technology they decide not to attack or to not leverage in their behalf. And so it's already happening, and it's really about organizations using the tools they have and investing in tools that will identify this and prevent it.
You're on the front lines of this every day. You see it happening. What do you think the general public is thinking about this? Do you think they have really any idea? I'm sure they've seen the headlines, but do you think they really understand the gravity of this?
I don't think so. I don't think there's quite the appreciation. I think it's very cool that everyone now has access to AI systems, and you can use things like ChatGPT or Claude or some of these others, and I think that's fantastic. But what I think people would be very, very surprised to learn is how flimsy the security is around these tools, how easy it is to bypass those guardrails, how easy it is to get around it. Hidden Layer published an attack technique. Anytime we identify things like this for the sake of defense, we always share, as the cybersecurity community should, how we did what we did in order for others to be able to learn from it. And an attack we came up with over a year ago still works on all the major models today. And so I think that it starts to become scary when you're allowing these tools to interact with your finances or interact with your private data, or you're using it on your personal computer at home or your work computers, because they're excellent tools. They're progressing very quickly, but I don't think cybersecurity or safety is anywhere near the top of the priority list for these foundational AI labs. And so I think that's the thing that we're trying to make sure everyone understands, because it's the risk you take when you leverage these tools.
So what is Hidden Layer working on now?
We're working on effectively taking the same AI security controls we have and really fast forward to today's level of agentic work streams. We're trying to make our tools faster. We're trying to make our tools able to, when somebody's building a system with an agent, that you're now taking things that used to take months and you're doing them in hours. And so we need to be extremely quick in order to make sure that those things are taking place. But effectively, we're trying to prevent that type of attack technique, which we call prompt injection, and make it available to everyone, whether it's government agencies we work with, whether it's local organizations. And it's fun to be an Austin company and be able to secure some of the big tech companies that are coming here as well. But we're really looking to not only build the defensive solutions, but also give people the governance tools, the observability tools they need in order to know that their AI threat landscape is secure.
I think a lot of companies, maybe in the early 2000s, were thinking, we need to have some level of threat detection and security. But in your opinion, is it really just, it's a must these days? You cannot make it a second item in terms of your company, especially if you're building a startup with proprietary technology.
We couldn't agree more. I mean, if you look at the last 9,000 startups to come out, I mean, most of them are, hey, we built an agent. And so when 100% of your value proposition is driven by an artificial intelligence tool, you really do have to lean into that. Now, that being said, every enterprise organization is putting, 9 figures into their AI security strategy, their AI strategy right now. And really what we tell folks is, like, we're not asking you to make any new decisions. Take defensive things that you've applied to your network, to your endpoints, to your email accounts, all the the things that you've already decided you need a version of that form fit for artificial intelligence. But there's a lot of new concepts that are coming alongside that. When you think about things like, what is an identity? It used to be an employee. Now it could be an agent. Now it could be 15 agents that one employee spun up. And what should it be allowed to do? And I think one of the other things that we're working on now in the future is, this concept of roles. I think roles are almost going away. And it's really not about, should the HR people be allowed to see the HR data? And now it's about, here's this agent that, we're letting have access to everything because it's so much more efficient and quick. Now, how do we guard and what kind of rules do we set for that? And then how do we enforce those rules at, the speed of milliseconds? And that's really what you need, kind of that next gen security solution in order to be able to do that.
Now, do you unleash these agents to find security holes that maybe the human programmers didn't find or can't see?
That's what a lot of companies are doing right now. And what we kind of describe in two major categories. There's AI for security, which is doing exactly that. And a lot of companies and big models are really good at that solution. They're good at finding vulnerabilities in code. We're more security for AI. So when you have these tools that you're using for your chatbots or your coding inside your organization, that system can be attacked. And there's a lot of vulnerabilities aside from that. The OpenAI and Hugging Face case was both. It was AI causing problems for AI. But effectively, we secure those AI systems in every form that you need. But there's a lot of great organizations out there that are using AI to do things like make sure code is more secure, because AI is certainly better at the offensive side of trying to find insecure code in order to exploit those vulnerabilities like what we saw.
Anything I didn't ask you think is important to say about the landscape now or where we're heading or this incident?
I think it's just moving incredibly quickly. And that's something that I think people need to understand as well, is like there's a new leader in AI every week. There's new protocols that pop up every week. I think it's the fastest moving technology we've ever seen. We cannot still move like we do at the speed of things like, the government's way of controlling other past technologies, where it was kind of fine to spend a year coming up with what the rules would be. By the time, if you spend a year coming up with it, AI is completely different. I mean, we didn't have agentic systems a year ago. We didn't even have Gen AI systems, 4 years ago. And so I think that it's a scenario where if the longer we take to understand what we should be doing, it's already a whole new world. And in some cases, things change dramatically even in weeks. So it's a very fast moving system. It keeps us on our toes. It keeps it very fun for us to try and keep things secure. But I think having an appreciation for, number one, the speed at which the AI landscape is shifting, but also, again, that security flimsiness that's in there today, because a lot of these labs, they're not really incentivized to make sure it's the most secure technology. They just want to make sure you like it and will use it and pay for it.
Right. It's a Wild West.
Yeah, very much so.
Well, Chris Sestito, thank you so much for joining us. Co-founder and CEO of Hidden Layer. This is a company to watch in the cybersecurity arena. Thank you for joining us on Tech This Out, the video podcast.